Worry keeps us stuck. So we need to really show them how being stuck in the past, usually, right? Either something I've did, now we're worrying about what's to come, and then the future. It really negatively influences our emotional responses. And so it's like shining a flashlight, like being in the fog and shining a flashlight here and now. You've got this clear path. We want to be right here and now, right? So that we could see. And if we started to think about, what I wish I had done or what could be happening, we're never right here, right? We're always going to get stuck in this loop. And then our physiological reactions, it's just going to increase. And then that's just going to reconfirm all of the anxiety and everything else. So when we're stuck in the past and the future, we're not picking up valuable information right now that I am safe, right? That this isn't a big deal. People telling me is not going to be helpful because I'm stuck. So we want to keep that prefrontal cortex online. That's the goal, is to keep that prefrontal cortex online so we can do these things. So staying here so we can attend to the context, the current context, so that we're not missing out on all of that important information to show us that we are safe. And so when we understand anxiety and how it shows up, we can respond differently, right? We can label our emotions. It makes them more manageable and we're not getting sucked in. We can tolerate it. I'm not going to go through each of these, but that's really important. We can make adaptive decisions because our prefrontal cortex is online. And so we want to make sure they're generalizing these skills. We can teach them, but it's really about anchoring it now in the present, practicing it, right? So maybe having mindful activities that they could be doing. All of this fast and furious gets me to the most important part of the compass at the end of the day, and it's dare and defy. Students learn to avoid whenever anxiety shows up, and we reinforce it by allowing them to avoid with some of that accommodations. So it's helpful to avoid when there's real danger. That's helpful, but it's unhelpful when we're just doing a test. It's unhelpful when we're just waiting for a text response, right? We're never going to learn anything new. There's all sorts of things. So we want to look at what's helpful and unhelpful, adaptive and maladaptive coping, essentially, right? So we want to look at those things. Is this response going to help me learn, gain skills, manage anxiety, or is it going to hinder my problem solving, hinder my relationships? So, we can look again, those thoughts and feelings lead to avoidant behavior. So if I'm thinking people will think I'm stupid, I avoid putting my hand up in class. If I feel like I'm going to throw up, I avoid going to school. Everything must be done perfectly, so I'm not going to do anything at all. People will think I'm boring, so I'm not going to go hang out with people at all, right? So we avoid, but they're never going to learn to cope. If we're always avoiding, we never have the skills to go out into the sea and manage whatever, storms are coming. I would say even higher than 90% of what students learn is from what they experience. It's not from talking. So again, we could talk about things for 10,000 hours, but if they are never learning and they're just avoiding, they're losing that chance to practice and grow, and it hinders their brain development, and they're never learning the skills. And they're missing out on opportunities to see if their anxious prediction is right? If I wear my lucky red sock, nothing bad is going to happen. Nothing bad happened today, so therefore my lucky red sock. They never have the opportunity to see you still might have a pretty good day even without your lucky red sock, right? And so we have these biased thoughts that are just perpetuated. And if they're missing out, they're just going to continue believing that they're going to be laughed at, or they're going to throw up, or whatever else is going to happen. And that brain processes information, like I said, in a very biased way. And they never learn that those thoughts aren't true. They have no evidence to suggest otherwise. And so anxiety just gets stronger because those worried thoughts seem more believable, right? So we want to make sure that we're doing things differently, because it becomes a disorder if we're always doing exactly what anxiety wants. So I've already used this analogy. We can talk about 10,000 hours about how to swim, but I'm never going to throw a kid into the deep end if they've never actually learned to practice. And so it's great that we've talked about all these things. They need to go practice. And I've actually considered taking any of those thinking traps out. It's just kind of fun. So it's still fun for the presentation, but we don't necessarily need them. A lot of that cognitive flexibility ability and thinking differently comes when we're actually in the situation and we actually learn that I can handle it. So when we look at resilience, it's the ability to adapt well to adversity, trauma, tragedy, threats, or even significant sources of stress. Kids need to experience significant sources of stress. And we keep robbing them of those opportunities. Resilient kids can cope with whatever life challenges and stressors come up. This is where we're going. They need to learn these skills. The speed of recovery when we're looking at anxiety directly relates to our willingness to feel anxiety. It has nothing to do with turning down the anxiety dial. It has everything to do with, I am nervous and I'm willing to do it anyways. I'm still going to go and do that thing. So when we look at avoidance, one thing you can do is I like folding a piece of paper in half, and on the outside, we can look at all of the thoughts and feelings that comes up and everything that anxiety does so that we avoid, right? And then what are we missing out on the inside? It's all covered up by anxiety. What are we missing out on? We're not trying out for sports. We're not doing our auditions. We're not seeing our friends. We're not, right? And so that's where we need to get some of the motivation. I do want to see my friends. I do want to go on the sleepover. So what are we going to do next? One way that you could look at this is start by doing the opposite. So if people think I'm stupid, I'm going to avoid speaking up in class or meetings or whatever. Well, what's the opposite? I'm going to put my hand up, right? I'm actually going to go to school. I'm going to go and see friends. So that's what we want to do. Now, it's really about exposure. We need kids to be exposed to stressful situations, to independent opportunities to build, these experiences so that they can learn. Anxiety itself is tolerable, it's safe, and I can handle it. Right? That's really important that they are learning to be confident even when they're anxious and worried. It's not about reducing anxiety. It's not about the outcome. It's about the process. I'm going to do it anyway. That's really important. And when we look at those safety behaviors, again, those are strategies that students are trying to control or avoid or reduce that anxiety by making themselves feel better or feel less anxious. Like, yeah, I'm going to do it, but I'm going to keep my fingers crossed just to make sure that I'm not actually, going to do this. Oh, I see the sign. I'm going to see if I can turn this a little bit. Or, I know that I'm safe. We actually had one kiddo who was so great with so many of the exposures. It was never really a problem. And we realized, because they were scared of suffocating and needing CPR and stuff. And we realized as long as there was an adult around, they were fine because they assumed all adults knew CPR. So once we realized that, because they were just so scared of, suffocating and stop breathing. And so once we realized that, they had to start doing things without an adult around. And that kind of made a big difference. So, this is what happens, right? Again, we never learn. We're always going to have those biased thoughts if we don't do the things that make us feel uncomfortable and without our safety behaviors. Because even if we go and do the thing like pet a dog, but our fingers are crossed, we're never going to learn that I can actually handle it. I don't need to do those things. So this is what we need them to do. They need to face their fear, whatever they're worried about, get uncomfortable without those safety behaviors, and to see the worst thing isn't going to happen. Or even if the worst thing does happen or something worse that I wasn't even expecting, I handled it. The world didn't stop and explode. I was able to handle it. So this is the goal. It's not about getting rid of anxiety, controlling it, eliminating it. It's about ending the fear of anxiety. I am not scared of being scared anymore. That's the goal here. It's there, the anxiety's there, and I'm going to go do it anyway. Because it's not the thing. Like I said, if they're scared of the fire bell, it's not that they're scared of the fire bell. They're scared of the feelings, the uncomfortable feelings, and not knowing if other people are going to notice, right? So remember these dials, the anxiety dial, we have zero control over, maybe except for shaking. We've got our acceptance dial. I'm just going to accept it. Here you are. You showed up. Okay, come along. We're still going to go. And I'm willing to go anyways, even though it's uncomfortable. That willingness dial is even more important. Now, to be effective, we need to have the buy-in. And so that's the inspire. I just knew I wouldn't have enough time to go into it, but we need their motivation. And I've got a mouse here. If you know a little Albert, Little Albert was a baby who wasn't scared of rats, but they paired a really loud sound with the rat just to scare him. So they created this fear of rats, but it generalized really quickly. It was little white, anything white, like a little fuzzy rabbit, but it turned into like cotton balls and Santa's beard and all sorts of things like that. So, they created this really quickly, and it turned out like even brown furry things like a brown fur coat, so it generalizes really quick, but they were able to undo it. And they were able to undo it by now, instead of presenting this rat with a big scary sound, they're presenting it with something else to help, build that motivation. They repaired it with cookies. And so that is really helpful, right? It's okay to have external motivation. For my daughter, she had a lot of social anxiety in grade 7 and 8. And so every day she had to take something out of her bravery jar. We had a little piece of paper and she would take it out, and maybe it was talk to someone at lunch, compliment someone, whatever it was. And every day she would take it. And every time she did something, for her, it was nibs. If we could have some nibs and go watch, at the time she loved Grey's Anatomy, and go watch some Grey's Anatomy, she would do anything, right? And so that external motivation can be really helpful. So we want to make sure we've got that buy-in. Sometimes the buy-in is enough. I'm just scared of being a crybaby all the time. I'm scared. I'm done of having to stay back at school and do boring work while everybody's going on a field trip. Sometimes that's enough motivation, but other times, if we need that external piece. So I love, the swamp analogy. We're going to go into that swamp. I don't know what's in there. There might be bullies. There might be fails. There might be a mean math teacher. There might be bees. There might be dogs. You might get bit. You might fail. I don't know what's going to happen. But on the other end is something that's really important to you. So are you in it, right? We want that willingness. That's so important because, and that buy-in is important because nothing is worth feeling these big uncomfortable feelings for. So we want to make sure that there is something a little, worth a little bit more of that. So that's going to be important. We want to remind them, yeah, we know make our predictions. How is it going to feel? Anxiety is going to show up. You're going to go do this uncomfortable thing. How is it going to show up in your body? What is it going to want to see? Right? How is it going to affect you? And what is your response going to be? That's really important. And we're going to be honest. It is uncomfortable. I don't know how it's going to turn out, but it is temporary. Maybe part of it is timing. How long do you think you're going to feel nauseous? How long do you think that, this big pressure in your head? Let's guess how long it's going to take. Oh, 5 years. Well, it's probably like not even 5 minutes, maybe 50 seconds, right? So again, we're just going to focus on, we have no control over anxiety. It's the willingness. Are you willing? What do we need to do to bump up that willingness dial? That's so important. This is where we want to get kids to. If I'm uncomfortable, then I know I'm on the right track. That is so important. Okay. That's where we want to get them to. So we can rate it. We're going to go do this uncomfortable thing. 100 or 10. It could be on a scale of 1 to 10 or 1 to 100. Easy peasy, from 0 all the way impossible. There's no way I can do it. So, these are just examples. Maybe they have their thing. So saying hi to someone in the classroom, asking the teacher for help, whatever. How awful do you think it's going to be? And then we're going to make the prediction, then we're going to go into this uncomfortable thing, and then we're going to rate the actual awfulness. And you can set this up as a class. We all have a piece that makes us a little uncomfortable. Some kids might not look like they have any anxiety, and that's fine. But I bet there's things that make them feel a little bit uncomfortable, right? Even the most confident of students might have something. So they could all be working on something. And this is what you're working on. Maybe it's the mistake of the day, but maybe it's doing something brave of the day. And that's what we're going to mark on our thermometers or on our sticky notes. Having visuals is really helpful because our brain likes us to forget, all the successes. So one thing you could do is have this Venn diagram. On the right with the success, you're going to in pen, write all of the things that you're successful with. You know how to read, you know how to ride a bike, you know how to ski, whatever it is that they were never born with those skills. It was practice. On the left, you're going to have little sticky notes and you're going to write what's hard. Putting my hand up in class, saying hello to the teacher, asking for help, going on a field trip, And it might be stuff not even at school, right? So they're going to put those on sticky notes. And I put them on sticky notes because it's temporary, because we know when we work on it, it's going to get easier. And so then they can pick what is it that you're going to work on, right? Now they can move that sticky to working on it. And eventually, they're going to feel successful. They've mastered it. We're going to write it in the success. Now we can work on what's our next hard thing. You can work on a couple of things. The more collaborative it is, the better, right? So what would you like to start with? Let's talk about our predictions, right? That's going to be really important. We want to make sure we're learning. When we're doing any sort of exposure to uncomfortable things, some learning must absolutely happen. And so we want to have this bring it attitude. Come on. And especially if as a class, if we're all doing this thing, everyone's going to have varying degrees. And we don't have to start at the easiest. Don't ever say start at the easiest, because we're telling them, I don't think you can do the harder thing. I would say, I would love, like, yes, jump up, come up here. Make a complete fool of yourself, right? If you can do that, everything else is super easy. If they're willing to, most kids won't do the 100, but they're willing to at least do a 50 or 60, right? That's what we want. I've got it. Let's do it. And if they're seeing other people do it too, like, all the better. It's kind of like that Captain Dan in Forrest Gump, right? You call this a storm, bring it on. Is that the worst you can do? I'm going to show you a little video here. This is of me skydiving, and I'm terrified. I'm looking at him. I might even smile. He said, are you going to be a paratrooper? I said, yes. No, that was never anything, but I'm just so scared, right? But I'm looking cool, even though I'm terrified, right? I'm smiling. You probably can't tell that I'm terrified, but I'm absolutely terrified. There's moments there where you can kind of see me like, oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm like, I got nothing to say to my parents. I'm in shock right now. I can't think of anything. I'm like, it's windy. Okay, so I'm terrified. Now, watch. There is a reason why I'm showing you this. And so we have, even though we're both in the exact same situation, we have different chemicals being sent out into our body. Mine is the threat response. We are going to die. I am going to die. And so it's a lot more of the cortisol, right? Versus someone who does it all the time and loves it, it's a lot more adrenaline. So if we see it as a threat, we're going to go into that fear, fight, flight. But if we see it as a challenge, literally just how we perceive the situation changes the chemical makeup and the hormones and everything that are sent out. So that can be really important. Now, when we end the exposure, did the feared thing happen? You predicted that you're going to throw up and everyone was going to laugh at you and you're going to have no friends. Did it happen? Yes. Okay. Did you survive? Are you still here talking to me? Right? Was it manageable? It was hard, but you managed it. You still survived. No, it didn't happen. How tolerable was the distress, right? And then they're like, it's not a big deal. Sometimes the worst thing does happen. Like, I've had kids in my office, I will have them go into other offices and like ask for the time or ask for the code for the bathroom. And there was one time it happened where someone just went into an office and the man was mean and yelled at him. But he didn't come back scared, the kid. He was like, what was that guy's problem? I'm just a little kid. Why did he have to be so mean, right? He was still so much braver, even though the worst thing did happen. So I just wanted to come back to that inspire, right? It's really important that we get their buy-in. I've already talked about this, but that confidence over anxiety is so important. We're never going to ask, I never ask a kid to do anything that they don't want to. If you don't already know this, you should know the fact that we cannot force kids to do anything. And so that's really important. Right. So we would just want to make sure we have that confidence. And part of it is, them being their anxiety expert, the brain expert, knowing exactly what's happening. Anxiety is normal. It's temporary. I know what's happening in my body. Everything that I've already talked about, they need to learn as well. And anxiety is not in the situation. It's not about the fire bell. It's not about the dog. It's not about people laughing. It's about the feelings and how we perceive those feelings. It's really about that. So that's why they need to know the feelings and the amygdala, right? And it causes all of, when it's triggered, it causes all of these feelings in our body to make us want to run away, right? The brain cannot tell the difference. The body cannot tell the difference. So it's going to send those false alarms. Those are the things that they need to know. Stress hormones plus our creative mind creates those worried thoughts and all of the things that happen in our body. So they need to learn those things so that they can manage. I know exactly what's happening. And this is what it feels like. And I know what's happening with all of these different pieces, right? So they got to understand those truths. Our bodies are intuitive. It's not going to make you choke. You're not going to spontaneously stop breathing. Our hearts can beat all day long and we can still be fine and healthy. Telling your heart, just slow down and it's not going to make a difference. Just let it do its own thing. Breathing, your body knows how to breathe. Get out of its way. Just let it do its thing. Sleep, get out of the way. There's never been a time, unless you've tried to force yourself to stay up, there's never been a time your body doesn't actually eventually fall asleep. We got to get out of the way, right? And so when they have that understanding, the uncertainty is gone because they know. And so now it's not so scary. It makes sense. I know why I'm sick. That makes sense because all of this stuff, I understand what my body is doing. And so now when we coach them and they have all of this understanding, they can start coaching themselves, right? And what is happening. And so understanding that connection, the feelings and thoughts, behavior, right? Now they can see how these things interact. And I have control. I don't have control over my thoughts and feelings. I've got control over my behavior. And I'm going to do some predictions and some experiments and do things differently, right? So I know that this is what it sounds like. I know what it feels like in my body. I know what it looks like. It wants me to run away. It wants me to yell. It wants me to punch, but I'm going to do the opposite. And we can change our brain. We can make new, brave, stronger pathways, right? We're growing our brain whenever we take on new challenges. Even just thinking that I can do it is enough to change your brain. But we got to figure out, why is this important to you? Why is it important to work on this? Because you're going to get uncomfortable. We're going to be honest about it, but why is it important? Right? So we want to write those reminders. Why is this important to you? Because their anxiety is going to want them to forget. No, never mind. I don't care about going to the birthday party. So we want to write it out. And then we want to have a committed action. And that's every day doing something brave, right? What are you willing to do every day? Why is it important to you? What are the steps you need to be able to do that, right? And so maybe it's writing it out in strategies like this, but it's about you creating the right worlds. And in the program, that school, the pilot program that I've got, it's about school opportunities to get out of our comfort zone as well as home. And that's really what we want every day. We want lots of opportunities to be able to do something, right? It's not bubble wrapping them. I know that this is a liability. There's probably no way we could ever get parks to be like this again, but we don't always have to bubble wrap them, right? They're never learning anything. So we want to create opportunities. It's stress inoculation, right? Be brave every day. What is one thing that's going to make you a little bit uncomfortable? Get out of your comfort zone. And we're going to celebrate that, right? As soon as my girls turned 8, I put them on an airplane because they can fly independently at 8 years old. I put them on an airplane to go visit grandma and grandpa, right? They need to have, and not everyone obviously can do that, but let them use a hammer on their own. Let them start the fire if you go camping, right? Let them try that thing, climb that thing. We want them to be able to take risks and learn that they can do it. And there's a risk taker advantage. They have a huge advantage in life when they can do these types of things. They feel confident. Actually, over the holidays, I let my daughter, she wanted to repaint our main kitchen living room area. I'm like, okay, you pick the paint, you go ahead, you and do it, right? I'll get the paint that you want. And she picked this baby blue. It was so institutional. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so terrible. And we've got dark brown furniture, but and she's painting it on. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is gonna look terrible. Not only did she do that, we had a real brick fireplace and she painted the brick fireplace white. And I'm just like, ugh. But I told her she could do what she wanted to do. But guess what? It looks beautiful. And the confidence in that girl, I've seen her do so much more in this past month or so, right? Just doing so many more things with confidence because she painted a whole room and redecorated a whole room. And it's quite incredible. So I love MacGyver, right? I have no idea how it's going to work. I have no idea how it's going to work out, but I'm going to use the resources, the strengths that I do have to figure it out. Again, the bravery jar, maybe it's something like that where kids are just picking, or maybe it's just their own thing. They're going to come up with their own thing that they're going to do. So creating opportunities for independence. I'm always telling parents, let them pack their own lunch at 4 or 5 years old. Actually, there's a Netflix show. I don't know if it's airing here. I've just seen commercial like on YouTube and stuff, but it's kids in Japan, 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds walking down a busy road like Glenmore Trail by themselves with a list to go to the store. There was a time when 3-year-olds, like 3 was the acceptable age to walk a mile to go to the bakery, get a loaf of bread and come home. Right? So these little toddlers are walking to the store, getting what they need, talking to strangers, asking for help. One kiddo was actually going onto a city bus, right? And so we are crippling our kids by not giving them these opportunities. The world is safer now than it ever was before, just so you know, since the 50s. It's safer, but we in our head think that the world is so dangerous. Well, yeah, the 80s is fine, but it was a different world. We are safer now for so many reasons. I'm not going to get into it. We can capitalize on challenges, right? Challenges are part of life. So you can create opportunities, but you can capitalize on the ones that they have. You can create challenges as well, like riddles. Maybe it's a riddle of the day that they need to work through the frustration of not knowing it immediately, but getting to the answer on their own without you giving them tips. Maybe it's doing something hard every day. Make it a rule that they have to do something hard, right? And working around those obstacles. That is just so important. When something bad does happen, what did you learn? Yes, it didn't go the way we expected. Dun, dun, dun. What did you learn? I handled it. Even though it was bad, it didn't go the way I expected. I handled it. There's always that learning. That's really important. When kids don't want to, again, we got to get the buy-in. First, we got to make sure our relationship is strong. Do they feel safe in the environment otherwise in general? But that's huge. Usually it's if they don't feel safe with us, we don't have a strong enough relationship. And then what else can we do? Like, building in that reinforcement. During a meltdown, if there is a meltdown, just think of that snow globe. We just settle it and we're there. I can see you're really upset, bud. I'm just going to be right over here when you need me. I'll be at my desk or I'll just be sitting next to you here. Just let me know when you're ready. So thank you. That brings us to the end. Thank you so much for listening. It's been wonderful. I hope that you've learned something. So think about what you have learned and what you're going to go now implement. If you want to listen to more, I have 2 podcasts. One is Overpowering Emotions. That's where I talk all things big emotions. Right now, I'm on a journey of resilience 2024, where it's just working on all of the skills that our kids need for building resilience. And every week I say, okay, here's your tip of the day or tip of the week to go work on. I also have a parenting podcast. Thanks so much. Take care.